That year, my parents separated. My mother left my father for a new man and accordingly moved into his apartment. The man was from out of town and he rented a house in our town. On the cheap, of course. Well, what else does a lonely bachelor who works from morning till night need? So at the time, it was a 2-bedroom in a residential neighborhood close to work. The landlord Tom was renting from wasn't exactly verbose. She took the money from his hands, said, "Live," and hurriedly left. Strangely enough, she crossed herself on the doorstep. Well, he didn't care. Old people have their own quirks. He's an IT guy, lives like in another dimension. All he needs is a roof over his head, a couch, and a computer. He didn't think about the fact that the apartment was really creepy, and there was a lot to be worried about, if only because of the fact that there were hand-drawn crosses on each of the old, not altered, jambs and tightly folded notes tucked under the jambs themselves. The wallpaper was dark blue with small florals. In the kitchen, as in the entryway, the walls were painted blue at the bottom and off-white at the top. It was as someone had hastily painted over them. The apartment smelled musty and stale. But the best part, the bathroom door, it was locked from the inside. And, that's all right. But it was locked from the outside. But Tom didn't care about that. He worked late, and before going to bed, he watched TV shows and passed out. With my mom, it all happened suddenly. I don't know how, but one day she just moved in with him in that cabin. I stayed with my father even though we didn't get along very well, but living with a strange man in a small apartment when I was 15 was even less appealing to me. That's when it all started. Mom became nervous, twitchy. No, of course, it could be put down to the stress of the divorce and so on. But little strange things started happening that she wasn't used to before. For example, she began to close all the doors tightly, although before she always left them wide open. My mother and I, despite my divorce from my father, would often meet in town or just call each other. On one such occasion, she mentioned that Tom's apartment wasn't very nice. I didn't pay much attention to it. I don't believe that, and neither did my mom. Well, it's all against the backdrop of the divorce. Mom had to move from a spacious apartment near the park to a bachelor's den that smelled of some junk. Of course, such a house is no good. Then one day, my father started renovating the bathroom. He decided to do it himself to make it last, and you have to shower somewhere. So I had to go to my mom's with her new man. I don't remember her saying there was anything wrong with the apartment. I showed up with a towel, and I said, "I just need a bath. You just don't lock it from the outside." I joked and went to take a bath. That's still putting it mildly considering the apartment was falling apart. The sink was cracked around the edge, for crying out loud, and the side of the tub sloppily sealed with tile. And it smelled like something had died in the pipes a long time ago, and Mom said the plumbers had already been called, but they found nothing, cleaned the pipes, and left. Damn apartment. I turned on the water, and it was rusty. My mom said something about plumbers. Apparently, she's so old. Nothing will help. I sat down on the edge of the yellowish cast-iron bathtub, waiting for the rust to come off. It poured for about 10 minutes, and the stench only seemed to get worse. But finally, its color became more acceptable, though I didn't want to pry into this relic of time. But I had come to bathe, not to inspect the interior. So I ducked under my grandmother's shower, pulling the gaudy fish curtain behind me. The water, as expected, was hot and cold. A particularly abrupt change in temperature made me jerk, and the curtain was nearly blown away. I turned off the suddenly boiling water and heard someone scratching under the bathtub itself. There's a room under it behind the improvised sidewall, but there usually means all sorts of things. Rags are stored there, and someone just stores unnecessary junk. Well, I think Tom's cat might have dropped by. Yeah, he had one of those striped ones, but I didn't see him come in here. Cats don't really like bathrooms, but whatever. I keep scrubbing, and he scratches, and it's so persistent that it makes me feel uncomfortable. I turn the water down a little, and I can hear him clearly, like fingernails on a hard surface. What the fuck is that? I need to finish my bath and get out of here. I turned the water back on, and I thought I felt something hit the side panel at the bottom where the door is. Her cat got in and can't get out. What else do you mean? And I had to finish splashing around and get out of the tub because of this furry critter. I wiped myself off, leaned against the door, and I was surprised to find that it had a bolt on it. It was a massive iron bolt, and it was locked. What the hell? There was a sharp knock on the door from the hallway, and I hastily averted my eyes. "Son, we're going to the store. We'll be right back," Mom said. "Okay, Mom," I answered. First, there was another rustle behind the door under the bathroom. It was me. "Oh, yeah. Hey, kitty, is that you in there?" I heard a muffled cat meow in response and exhaled. Well, we didn't get a good look at Fluffy, who knows? I opened the latch and it smelled like I'd dived headfirst into a garbage can. That's disgusting. I called for the cat, but he wouldn't come out, and I couldn't see anything, just some black bags stuffed to the brim. Okay, I thought, maybe he's afraid of me. I'm a stranger, he'll stomp around and come out, but I had no desire to smell the filth. I left the door open for him and started to dry off and get dressed. Mom and Tom weren't back yet, so I went back into the room and looked. Kitty was lying curled up on the chair. When had he done that? I was about to go over to him when he twitched, jumped up, and hissed. That's the thanks for the rescue." "Shoo." I waved my hand, and the cat jumped off the chair, arched his back, and hissed. Except not at me. It was like he was walking down a hallway. Like there's someone there. I turned around and I screamed loudly, and I jumped back. In the hallway, across from the doorway, stood something, twisted, misshapen, as if all its limbs had been cut off and molded anew. It was all blue, stained with rotten mold, and its stench made me shudder. It stood there with its mouth open, making hoarse-mooing noises. And then it came at me in a broken gait, twitching and jerking like I was having an epileptic seizure. And then it stuck its ghastly face out into the light, and it's a dead woman, all mutilated. Her lower jaw was torn off. There was a rotten gash in her neck, and her hands. Arms, bloody arms, cut off at the elbow and attached at the wrong angle. The cat has gotten under the couch, and it's coming at me and making mooing noises with its dead throat. And I have nowhere to run. There's a wall behind me and nothing to defend myself with. Unless I grabbed my mom's vase and threw it at the thing. It hit me in the face, but it did not. On the contrary, it roared and lunged at me, tumbling from one twisted leg to the other. I dialed 911 with my naughty fingers in a panic, though how could they help me? He was tearing at me, and I could vaguely hear myself screaming, then apparently failing. My last thought was, I'm dead. I regained consciousness from a light pat on my cheeks, and when I opened my eyes, I saw my mother's concerned face above me. In the background, a terrified Tom and police officers. My head was splitting, and I was frantically looking around for that creepy thing. But it was nowhere to be found. What the hell happened? Is it you yelling into the phone, kid? One of the law enforcement officers approached me. He must have gotten out of the bathroom. They probably wouldn't have believed me. None of them would have thought it was a prank and walked away. But the second policeman did peek into the bathroom, and his emotionless face stretched. What is it, Joe? Please, there's a puddle, and it stinks. The cop, Joe, leaned over and surveyed the space under the tub, cursing occasionally. The other looked questioningly at the notes in the door jambs and the painted crosses. And then this Joe pulled out a moldy black bag. And, hell, I still want to forget this episode. When they opened the bag, there were arms and legs cut off from the body, all rotted and shriveled. I didn't look any further and almost passed out again. Mom and Tom, of course, had moved out of that apartment. But the landlady, the quiet grandmother, was dragged through the courts because her sister-in-law was identified in the corpse. Horrible story. About it then in the media of our city long talked about. They said that the husband hacked his wife to death with an axe and hid the corpse under the bathtub in parts. True, he himself died under mysterious circumstances 6 months later. His mother also could not live there and began to rent the apartment, and the IT guy Tom lived and didn't suspect that his aunt was stabbed to death right under the bathtub. The end. Thank you guys so much for listening or watching my stories. Write your opinions in the comments. Bye.